nothing like batting second to these guys. I'm not sure that I can even come close to what they said. And also, my mom was an English teacher, high school English teacher for 33 years. And I was fortunate enough to have her. She's one of the best teachers I ever had. And I had her in speech class. And I remember there was a speech we had to do. It was called the impromptu speech. And she gave us a topic, and we had 5 minutes to prepare, and then we had to give the speech in front of the class. And I remember telling my mom, I said, "Mom, there is no way that I will ever have to give a speech with 5 minutes of warning." And she just said, "You just never know what you're going to do in life, and that it may come up that you have to do a presentation or a speech with very little warning, and you just got to, shoot from the hip." So thank you, Mom, for preparing me for the opportunity that I was given this morning to address you guys. So maybe because it was, it's fresh on everybody's minds from last week. On Friday, we had a lockout situation, and as you all work in our schools, I thought it would be just maybe pressing to kind of talk a little bit about school safety, kind of what are some of the things that we've done, just talk a little bit about the language that we use, and obviously, you folks are some of the reasons that we choose some of the policies and some of the things that we do, just because we know you're in our buildings. And although we would prefer to train and have every single person that's ever in our buildings know the policies and understand all the different things, we also know that there's some barriers in doing that, and so it's one of the burdens that we face, is keeping our kids safe. So Friday we had a situation happen in our community, and we were notified by the Oelwein Police Department, and shout out to them. They do a really good job of keeping us in the loop when things are happening, if there's things that we should be concerned about. And likewise, if we have situations, they're one of our first calls to partner with them and making sure that our students are safe. And so they had called, actually, we had started receiving phone calls about Sacred Heart, and because they had locked down first, and then we had called, and they confirmed that the situation was isolated and that we were safe, and so we didn't do anything. And then it was 10 minutes later, they said the situation has changed, and they recommended that we lock down. They told us that we should lock down, but that's not the phraseology we use. One of our buildings. Well, we chose to do all of our buildings, and we went to it's kind of our buildings are now locked at all times. If you haven't been to the schools yet, you have to buzz in to get in, and so that's a new feature this year. It's a long time coming. It actually was a process that we put in place last December, and by the time you get the door company to replace the doors, and you get the software company to install the computers, and you get the hardware and the training, it was a long process, but we got it ready to go to start the school year. And so all of our buildings are now locked. They're supposed to be locked 100% of the time, other than student entrance in the morning. And so unless you get pressed in by a secretary, you should not be able to enter our building. So there's just a heightened sense of security all the time now. So the next level up from that is what we call a lockout. So a lockout is basically we're just making the door's already locked, but we're making sure that nobody is entering or exiting the buildings. And so it created a problem because we were about ready to dismiss preschool. We had parents coming to pick them up. We had 5 community guest speakers that were locked in our high school that were supposed to go back to work. And we didn't let them leave. I think that it was a true testament to our staff that, they followed policy and protocol. We had students coming to our doors wanting to get in, and they were turned away. And that's to keep everybody safe, both internally and externally. So it's a hard thing to do, to turn a student away that wants to get in your building, but you just advise them the high school kids anyway, get in your car, go home, stay safe. So that's kind of what happened Friday, and then we stayed in that state till the end of the school day. We did have some folks exit the building, but every time we did so under guidance and with consent of the police department. So We did exit that preschool classroom, but we did it with the police department. We had those community folks, after 2 hours, we allowed them to leave, but they were escorted to their cars by the police department. So, I mean, every one of those decisions on the way was taken precautionary. You know, the other thing too, in that situation on Friday, it's difficult to make sure that everybody gets the information that they need. We do use common language, so although we use the term lockout and lockdown, and we have another one we use, it's called shelter in place, they're meant to be just common use words that they mean what they are. You know, a lockdown is everybody's locking down where you are. A lockout means we're locking people outside, and things on the inside can continue to happen. If there was an active event, if there was an angry parent, if there was a kid with a knife, or whatever the situation was, we just say that. There's no special terminology or codes that we use. We just say, this is what's happening and this is where it's happening. And then we expect our students and staff to respond to that as they're trained. The other piece that's important in all of that is the communication. And the communication with all stakeholders. So our first line of communication is with staff, and then to make sure that we are securing and doing what we need to do for our students. And so first and foremost, no matter what we do, it's making sure our students are safe. And then we communicate outward to the next level of stakeholder groups. So then we go to students and parents, and then to our community. And depending on the event, we typically don't have a lot of information. And that's always frustrating for the parents, because they want to know what's going on. They want to know if their kid is safe. And they're most of the time, you know, we get a phone call, something like this happened on Friday. We get a phone call, and the phone call lasts about 5 seconds. It's from the chief of police, and he's saying, you need to lock your building down. Click. There's no time for questions. There's no conversation. That's it. And so, you know, we go into that mode, and we may not receive more information other than that for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Well, in the age of technology that we are now, that word travels very quickly. And you got students and staff and parents are wondering what's going on, are my kids safe? And we don't have any information to tell them other than, you know, we were told to lock down. When we find out, we do communicate that out. But I'd say that's the most frustrating part for parents and also for us, is just the timeliness and the effectiveness and getting stuff communicated out, the phone calls we answer and all those kind of things. So that was Friday, and in general, we practice we call ALICE. It's our active intruder training, and we do that 2 times a year at least. Every classroom is trained, and then we do practices as a building, and then also annually we try to do a district-wide practice. So we have a single event. We don't tell people what it is. We tell them it's coming, and then we have our students and our staff react to that event.